Howdy guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 80 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 26. Yes, night number 80. It's 83 days or so inside the house, but the 80th night of the overnight feeds certainly starting to slow down a little bit. We're getting right there at the end. 1 week left to go, plus or minus. So we're right there at the end. The big decision left to be made, and just a reminder of where we're at right now. Cam or Rabina are heading out the door on Thursday. Mackenzie, as the veto holder, gets to decide. Once that happens, we're down to our final three. We'll have a few more comps to figure out who our final two are, and then it all wraps up. We're almost there, guys. But we did have a few conversations, a little bit of talking about who should be going with Mackenzie and Chelsea into the final three. So we do want to talk about that. We had a whole lot of reminiscing as well. Last night for the backyard before the house guests lose it. So they're getting a little think about Janky World, everything else they've done out in the backyard. So we'll talk about all that. All right, let's talk about the feeds themselves. We're going to start off with Cam and Mackenzie talking to one another. We did have a little bit of campaigning going on. Cam actually does want to stay in the house for a little bit longer. So he's talking to Mackenzie a little bit. Mackenzie is saying that, of course, she'll use the veto on herself. Well, yeah, of course she will. She's on the block right now. So she'll use the veto to pull herself off the block. The big question is who goes up in her place, Cam or Rabina? Well, let's see. I guess Rabina goes up, takes Cam's place. The big decision is then who Mackenzie actually votes to send out the door on Thursday. But yeah, she's telling Cam absolutely she'll use a veto, but she just hasn't decided who to save, who to carry on to the final three. That's the part she's got to figure out. She's saying that she wants Cam to be there. Don't get me wrong on that, Cam. I want you to be there, but she needs to choose who would take her to the end. And she's worried that Cam maybe wouldn't be the person to do that. I'm not sure that Rabina would be the person to do that either, but she's telling Cam that, probably trying to extract some kind of promise or something, which she did not get. But she's saying, as much as I want you to be here, I got to think about my game and just be selfish and take who's going to take me to the end as well. She's saying that she has worked hard all summer long to play this game, that it would be embarrassing if she didn't make it to the final two at this point in time. So she's got to think about that. Cam is telling her, saying, I get all that, absolutely, and all that. He said, yeah, the reality is, I'm not going to win this thing, Mackenzie. It's just not going to happen, though. The only way it could happen would be if there was some kind of a huge shock factor that I could talk to the jury about. And when he's talking about shock factor, he's talking about this idea of winning the final two competitions, making the decision, and not taking Chelsea to the final two, taking Mackenzie instead. Yes, that would be a shock. It would be a bit of a surprise. Now, you got to win two comps for that to happen first. And truly, the shock factor would be Cam winning two competitions, regardless of who he takes to the final two with him. That's the part where we'd all be absolutely shocked. But he's saying, yeah, the only way I have even any kind of chance, Mackenzie, is a shock factor. So just keep that in mind. Mackenzie is pointing out, and Cam is agreeing, that Chelsea's final two speech, if Cam was on the block with Chelsea, her whole final two speech would be that she carried him all the way. In other words, Mackenzie's explaining to Cam how he doesn't stand a chance in heck of actually beating Chelsea, because she's going to bring it up. I carried Cam from start to finish. What jury's going to vote for Cam under that kind of situation with that kind of speech? So in other words, Cam, if I did keep you, you may not want to take Chelsea if you get that opportunity, because she'll dominate. Yeah, she would. She absolutely would. Would anyone vote for Cam? I'm trying to think if there's any bearded jurors or anyone else. I think Chelsea very well could get a unanimous vote, potentially, if it came down to it, against Cam. And Mackenzie's certainly pointing out that his odds of final two with Chelsea much less than his odds of a final two involving Mackenzie, which is still pretty low. All right, so she is pointing that out to him. Mackenzie is saying that she is leaning towards keeping Cam, because she has tried to play a loyal game so far, and the more loyal thing to do would be to hold on to Cam. But she says, on the other hand, I also think, Cam, that you were a better competitor than Rabina, which makes the decision a little bit tougher. Do I take the person who's maybe a better competitor? who potentially could win and pull me out, or do I stay loyal and do what I think is absolutely best for my game instead? Cam is pointing out to Mackenzie that if he makes it to the final step, if he makes it to the final two, he said, what am I even going to say to jury? Getting back to that shock factor line, he says, what am I going to say to the jury if it's me in one of those final two chairs? He says, whereas with Rubina, the jury is probably better set up for Rubina than it is for me, and that's valid with T-Core and Chemo over there and such. So he's basically saying, if you or Chelsea, if either one of y'all are up against me in a final two chair, I got nothing to say. I got nothing to argue before the jury that would keep you from winning. Whereas Rubina, she's got this underdog story. She's been on the block so many times and she has survived. She's got people who really would love to vote for her from a jury standpoint. So Cam is doing a decent job of pitching why he may be better for Chelsea and Mackenzie's game than Rubina ever would when it comes down to a potential final two and jury vote. So he's mentioning that to her. He's also saying that he's been very loyal playing this game, just like Mackenzie has. And Mackenzie says, yeah, I know there are a few times where you could have turned your back on people and you didn't. And I absolutely respect that. So yes, I'm certainly keeping that in mind. Mackenzie also is saying that she realizes, as Cam points all this out about Rubina and her jury friends and all that, she says, I think I would lose to Rubina in a final two. If I'm up against Rubina in a final two jury vote, I think I would lose to her. I'm not sure that's the case. I think Mackenzie could still win. It would not be unanimous. It could be a close vote, certainly closer than if she was up there against Cam. So she's acknowledging that when it comes to final two, certainly Cam is a preferred choice to take to that step. Now, yeah, it's getting back to this whole deal. What if Mackenzie does win these last two comps and she has to decide between Chelsea and Cam? If she takes Cam, she walks away with $750,000. If she takes Chelsea, not so sure that's the case. She could be making a $750,000 decision here in the next few days. All right. With that being said, to finish up the conversation, we had lots of hanging around yesterday in the backyard, in the kitchen, playing some card games and all that, but basically just everyone being off to themselves to some degree and just hanging out. A few interactions, but nothing noteworthy in terms of gameplay or strategy or anything else. But they did spend quite a bit of time, it seems like, in the backyard yesterday, knowing that they're getting ready to lose it. They saved a bottle or so of wine from the night before. So they drank that yesterday afternoon, all set out in the little patio area and kind of just celebrated their last bits of time in the house, in the backyard. With a little bit of drinking of some wine. So they had that. All right, we did have Mackenzie and Chelsea talking as well. This was Mackenzie and Cam earlier. I think I said that. But anyway, Mackenzie and Cam earlier. Now we've got Mackenzie and Chelsea talking a little bit later, late afternoon, early evening, if I recall. Mackenzie's repeating her conversation with Cam earlier in the day, saying basically, I said, I'm leaning towards keeping him. I didn't say I'm keeping him. I didn't promise anything. I just said I'm leaning towards keeping him, Chelsea. So she's talking about her conversation with Cam earlier. She is complaining, and Chelsea's agreeing. Mackenzie's complaining that Rubina is the only one that seems comfortable right now. That certainly she seems very lackadaisical or not too concerned about her position with the decision that Mackenzie has to make coming up, and that's just rubbing her the wrong way. Mackenzie is feeling so stressed right now, and to see someone else in the house whose life is truly on the line, well, not literal life, but game life is on the line, did not seem to be nearly as stressed out as Mackenzie, who holds the power. I just think it's rubbing her absolutely the wrong way, and she's complaining about that. But she does say that she told Cam again that she's leaning towards keeping him, so maybe Rubina shouldn't be quite so confident. Mackenzie is saying that Rubina is confident about winning against Cam, about moving forward. And Chelsea follows that up by saying, Rubina's jury management is phenomenal. In other words, if she gets to the end, we could be in danger with it. So it certainly seems to me that Chelsea continues to push a narrative that Rubina needs to go. Seems like Mackenzie's leaning that way as well. I expect Thursday we're going to be saying goodbye to Rubina. She'll be heading out as a third place finisher. All right, our fourth place finisher. All right, the house guests got steak for dinner. Pretty good way to go out the last week or so. They also got stuff for tie-dye, some shirts, bandanas, things like that. They decided they'd save that for later in the week when they're all locked inside with nothing to do. God, it's going to be a few long days. So they didn't actually do the tie-dyeing. They'll do that a little bit later. We did have eventually everyone ends up outside again talking about all the stuff they'll be able to do in 6 days. Talking about singing, using phones. I remember thinking, gosh, I'll just have a wallet and be able to actually pay for stuff again. So they talk about that. Cam, I think, is the one that says, hey, we'll be able to talk about production. So yeah, they're thinking about the freedom they're getting ready to get once they get done. They're talking about other house guests from the season and who were super fans and such. They all recognized Joseph was a fan, wondering if Leah truly was a super fan. And so just talking about some of the house guests, talking about traveling and airports and international travel and just a lot of non-game talk throughout the afternoon and the evening. All right, we do have at one point Mackenzie complaining to Chelsea again about Rubina, saying Rubina hadn't even tried to talk to me. You know, Cam talked to me earlier. Rubina hadn't even approached me. So how am I supposed to reach out to her when she's the one who's facing potential eviction, and I'm supposed to reach out to her that she hadn't come over and kissed the ring, basically. Yeah, she's just perturbed that Rubina is not over there campaigning, pitching herself to Mackenzie at all. And yeah, that did irritate me as well. Rubina's just playing the game a little bit differently. Rubina is in the backyard hammock later in the evening, just kind of reminiscing, realizing for all of them it's their last night in the backyard. But I think for Rubina even more, she's more concerned than she's letting on. That's just her happy-go-lucky personality. But she had said earlier, I think, to Chelsea that she hadn't even unpacked her suitcase from last time, and she just put it back in the storage room, which is where you put your suitcases when you're potentially facing eviction. It's so rough. You have to pack your suitcases, leave them in the storage room during the live eviction night. If you're evicted, you head out the door with your little black duffel bag. Your suitcase follows you out at some point in time. It's just a humbling, sad, depressing feeling before the live eviction show when you walk into that storage room and you see your suitcase sitting right there and knowing what that means. But Rubina's a little bit more worried, but she's just maybe made a little bit of an error not letting other people know how concerned she is. So she's in the backyard hammock reminiscing about her time in the house. This is her last night in the backyard. She's talking about how lucky she is that she was able to find her people in the house and that she's had fun doing everything that she's in there. Eventually, she leaves the backyard, asks Chelsea if she can shower up in the HOH room. I'm not sure if the downstairs ever got hot water or not. So she may be upstairs for hot water. She may just be thinking, hey, take advantage of the luxury of the HOH room while I still can. So she's showering up in the HOH room for a little bit. All right, later we've got the house guests talking about their exes, breaking up, getting clothes back, just a lot of non-game talk. More talk about getting off work to do the show. Trust me, if coming from personal experience, knowing what it's like, having to approach management and everything, say, hey, I need off for the next couple of weeks, maybe the next 3.5 months. Then I can't tell you why, but can you give me some time off? Difficult conversations to have. And so Mackenzie talks about that a little bit, talking about what's been going on potentially with them gone, life after Big Brother. Are they going to go back to work? Just a lot of those kind of things. All right, we've got Rubina and Chelsea talking a little bit. Rubina's still not talking to Mackenzie, but she talks to Chelsea just a bit. Rubina basically pitching against Cam. Maybe she's doing it to the wrong person and not talking to Chelsea. Maybe Rubina can read the room well enough to know that any campaigning to Mackenzie may need to start with Chelsea and let Chelsea then do the actual legwork. But Rubina's talking to Chelsea and saying, look, Cam's ready to clock out. He's over everything. He's ready to go. He's not in the game anymore. Well, if I'm Chelsea Mackenzie, that's who I want to keep, is the person who's kind of given up. I want to get rid of the person who's still fighting hard and potentially represents a greater risk. But Rubina is saying that Cam is already checked out. He's ready to go. Rabina asked Chelsea at one point, says, "Hey, we've been here for so long now. Do you have any regrets about the way you've played the game and everything has gone down and all that?" And Chelsea, I thought was a great answer. She said, "Well, I don't know. I'll find out on finale night. At that point, I'll tell you whether I got any regrets or not." Stay focused on the prize, Chelsea. All right, Mackenzie is at one point, Mackenzie is cracking Chelsea and Rabina's backs. A little at home chiropractor, so to speak. What an opportunity to be a villain. Two other people that theoretically could be the other two in a final three with you, Mackenzie. Yeah, maybe could just walk a little heavier or a little harder on those backs than maybe was intended, and maybe get a little more rough on those backs, and you walk away with all the competitions if the other two people can't walk. Now, I'm not suggesting anything, and certainly Mackenzie didn't do that. Just the villain in me thinking that they're exposing their vulnerability to ask someone that's going to be a final three with them to crack their backs and work their bones and things like that. All right, while they're all doing that, Cam's in bed alone in the rock bedroom. He's called it an early night, and again, with this few people in the house, everyone gets a bed to their own if they so choose. Mackenzie and Chelsea, not so much. But Cam's in bed alone in the rock bedroom. Chelsea takes advantage of the HOH bathtub while she still has it. So she's taking a bath upstairs, a little bubble bath. While that's going on, we got Mackenzie and Rabina talking a little bit. Rabina finally talks to Mackenzie, but not really much game talk, any game talk that I caught. But they're talking about house guest secrets, especially seems like they're focused on Brooklyn. Someone told Mackenzie, "Oh, you'll be glad that you're so close being in Houston. You'll be glad you're so close to Brooklyn." And Mackenzie figures that Brooklyn's probably some very important person, a pageant person, something like that. She's headed the right direction with those assumptions. So they're talking about that. Mackenzie's talking to Rabina a little bit more about also tomorrow, and she's saying, they'll call me for the veto ceremony about 10:30 or so. In other words, do you want to talk to me a little ahead of time, maybe? Nah, Rabina didn't take the bait, but she's saying, yeah, they'll call me probably about 10:30 or so for the veto ceremony. Now, no veto ceremony, no need for a veto ceremony. We all know that you're using the veto, Mackenzie. We all know that if you use it, there's only one other person that can go on the block, and it's Rabina. So no veto ceremony. That'll all take place live Thursday night. And I don't know if Mackenzie realizes it. She won't be going into the diary room to decide who goes home. She's going to have to face Cam and Rabina and to their faces say, "Sorry, you're heading out the door." Yeah, Jackson Mickey did that to me when I got sent home fourth. There was no hiding in the diary room. You just have to say it out loud. So that's all going to take place on Thursday night. All right, we've got Chelsea and Mackenzie talking a little bit more. Mackenzie is again saying that she just knows that Cam won't take her to final two. And she's saying she worked too hard to go out in third place. She's just not going to accept that. She's saying she worked hard for 3.5 months, and Cam and Rabina, all they did was just have fun all summer. So why in the world do they deserve to make it to a final two and not Mackenzie? So that's what her thinking is at this point. They're both wondering about Cam, if he has any secrets, but not in terms of background as much as I think it's Chelsea maybe said, yeah, Cam just has no substance in this house. The BB comic chameleon and all of that. He just doesn't have any substance, but they're wondering if maybe Cam goes into the diary room, and when he's in the diary room, he turns it on and he's just Mr. Charisma and a completely different person inside the diary room. They're laughing about the possibility that, hey, what if Lisa was to win America's Favorite Player? That the house viewing public just loves Lisa, and we don't even realize it. And Lisa got America's Favorite Player. They're both thinking that it could be Angela that gets it. They would not be surprised if that was the case. So they talk about that. They talk about the different types of comps that are coming up as part of the final three-stage competition. Mackenzie saying, I like puzzles. They basically say, look, we just need to win 3 comps between us. That's all we need to do. And there are 2 comps between us. I think it's 2 comps if I'm math right. Yeah, I think 2 comps. Saying we just need to win 2 comps and between the two of us, and we're good. We'll be the final 2 together. So they're talking about what kind of comps it could be: memory comps, puzzle comps, etc. All right, we've got Rabina back in the hammock for one last time, talking about it being the last day in the backyard. She's just talking about all the things that happened in the backyard. She's also mentioning the fact that she remembers when in the early stages of the game, you couldn't get a second to yourself, that you couldn't have a conversation of any extended period of time because people were always coming up and you had to stop the conversation. People everywhere. Yeah, such a huge difference between early in the game when you truly, no matter where you walked in a house, you'd run into people having conversations, to now when that house seems so large and so empty and so vacant. It's a very weird feeling. So she's recognizing that as well. Later, she leaves the hammock. She goes up onto that upstairs balcony, is looking around, just kind of enjoying the view for one last time. Eventually, she calls it a night, heads inside. We have Chelsea in the back and Mackenzie that then come out in the backyard as well, looking around, doing the same thing, talking about Janky World. Mackenzie's talking about that's where she won her first HOH, and just thinking about everything that's happened over the summer in that backyard. Eventually, they call it a night as well. They both are again sharing the HOH bed upstairs. And so with that, everyone in bed by 3:30, maybe 3:45 or so. So everyone in bed, calling it a night. So in summary, what's going on? Cam pitched much better than Rubina did. Cam pitched on why he probably should stay over Rubina. Certainly seems like both Chelsea and Mackenzie are leaning that direction. With that in mind, I expect that we'll see Rubina heading out the door on Thursday. It makes sense, right? You don't want Rubina having any chance that she makes it to the jury with the friends that she's got on, or making it to the final two with the friends that she's got on jury. I just don't see Rubina lasting beyond Thursday, which would mean a final three of Mackenzie, Chelsea, Cam. Mackenzie better be planning on winning the rest of these competitions, because otherwise she could be in trouble. We will find out. Guys, have a great Monday. Yeah, it's Monday. Have a great Monday. Tonight, Cliff Notes Live, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. We're going to be talking about no veto ceremony, but we'll be talking about the end game, what we think's going to happen, who has a chance to win this, what they need to do. So we'll be talking about the last little bits of Big Brother. And then tomorrow morning, I'll be back to give you a recap on what happened overnight as well. Guys, have a great Monday. I'll see you either this evening, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, or tomorrow morning for another recap. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.